Welcome to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Nicholson, crime scene investigator turned metabolic health investigator. This podcast provides bite-sized episodes to help you have a pristine health scene so you can live a vibrant, adventure-filled life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. Today, we are talking about functional lab testing that your doctor likely knows nothing about or would likely never order, might not even be able to order for you. So let me first start by explaining the differences between conventional medical testing and functional lab testing. Let's start with conventional lab testing you'd likely see through your general physician. These panels are primarily looking for levels of various markers that are necessary to sustain life. These can be used for diagnostic purposes, for screening purposes, or for ongoing monitoring. This would often include a CBC, or a complete blood count, and sometimes a CMP, or a comprehensive metabolic panel. And as you'll see, this is kind of a misnomer because it's not actually all that comprehensive. The CBC is looking at various components of the cells in your blood. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, hematocrit, which is the percent of plasma in your blood, hemoglobin, which is a blood protein that carries oxygen, MCV, MCH, and MCHC are markers of the size and physical characteristics of your red blood cells, and you get a breakdown of the various types of white blood cells that are present in your blood. So things like lymphocytes, neutrophils, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. The CMP, or Comprehensive Metabolic Panel, looks at 18 additional markers highly related to the liver, kidneys, and metabolism. So ALT and AST are liver enzymes. Albumin is a carrier protein. Globulin is also a protein. Total protein, which is just the albumin plus the globulin. The albumin-globulin ratio, or AG ratio. The eGFR, which is the estimated glomerulofiltration rate, which is a marker of kidney function. Alkaline phosphatase, which is an enzyme. Your CO2, or carbon dioxide, often also referred to as bicarbonate amount in your blood. Bilirubin. BUN, or blood urea nitrogen, which is a kidney marker. Creatinine, the BUN creatinine ratio. Calcium levels in your blood. Chloride, which is an electrolyte mineral found in your blood. Glucose, potassium, and sodium. Together, the CMP and the CBC do provide a lot of information, and they are commonly run in the functional world as well. However, they leave out many very helpful markers that functional medicine providers can use to assess imbalances long before they become disease. Conventional medical providers also often run a standard lipid panel, which would include total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. These, again, are helpful markers, but don't tell us the whole story. So now let's turn our attention to functional lab testing that your doctor likely doesn't know anything about or wouldn't be allowed to run under the insurance paradigm. Now, let me first preface this by saying that I am not going to address all possible tests that are available, as there are literally thousands of different tests on the market that can be used in various health challenges. I'm only going to cover 10 tests or markers that I would recommend that pretty much everyone have done at some point. I'll briefly mention some additional types of tests at the end, but I won't be going into great detail on additional testing. So the first test that I love is called a stress and metabolic profile. This is a saliva test that you collect at home that looks at your daily cortisol rhythm, fasting and non-fasting insulin, DHEA, which is a hormone, and secretory IgA. This is a marker of your immune function. Now, I love this panel because it's non-invasive, it's really inexpensive, and it provides a ton of great detail about how your body is functioning. With these results, we can then take a holistic approach to addressing stress handling, hormone imbalances, immune health, blood sugar handling, and your overall brain-body communication. This is my favorite test to start clients with because it provides a high-level yet detailed overview of what's going on in your body. Many clients find complete relief from their health challenges through addressing the imbalances found on this test. The second test is a simple marker that can be added on to any blood panel, and this is a fasting insulin. This is the first of the blood sugar handling markers to become dysregulated, and yet most doctors don't order it. When the first signs of insulin resistance are developing, insulin will start to rise because the body's not responding to the presence of insulin. You'll start producing more and more insulin to do the job. If we look at fasting insulin, we can catch this elevation potentially decades before diabetes develops. Unfortunately, most doctors don't run this because there's no diagnosis they can provide and no medication or procedure to fix it. It's all diet and lifestyle. Now, this is such a cheap marker, it's astounding that more doctors won't run it. Unfortunately, it's likely that the insurance model is what's preventing it. The third test is comprehensive thyroid testing. This again is a blood test that can be added on to any blood panel, and this includes a TSH, free T3, total T3, free T4, total T4, reverse T3, TPO antibodies, and TGB antibodies. This full panel tells us how the communication between the brain and the thyroid is working and how your body is producing and using the various forms of thyroid hormones. The antibodies then give us information about potential autoimmune thyroid processes. The fourth test is some advanced lipid testing known as apolipoproteins, specifically ApoA1 and ApoB. These are little known markers related to cholesterol that can be obtained via, again, any standard blood test. Apolipoproteins are proteins involved in lipid metabolism. Apolipoprotein A1, or ApoA1, is associated with the HDL. Apolipoprotein B, or ApoB, is associated with VLDL, IDL, LDL, and lipoprotein a. These two markers individually provide enhanced detail into the various types of lipoproteins that you have, and we can evaluate the ratio between the two for assessing overall risk factors. Current research is showing that these two are far superior markers to the standard lipid panel. The fifth test is a comprehensive iron panel. Again, this can be added on to any standard blood panel. Many doctors don't look at iron at all, but iron plays a key role in carrying oxygen throughout your body. Both too much and too little is problematic. The comprehensive blood panel looks at total iron, which is iron found in the blood that's attached to the carrier protein called transferrin. This is the last marker to show imbalances. So if you're looking at your blood work and you see a total iron or serum iron, if that's the only iron marker, you're not getting all the information. The second marker on this panel is a total iron binding capacity, which is the approximation of the amount of transferrin you have in your blood. Again, that's the carrier protein that's going to carry the iron in the blood. The third marker on this panel is iron saturation. This is basically looking at how much of your transferrin, the carrier protein, has iron attached to it. And lastly, we have ferritin. This is the most important marker of all of them. This is the storage form of iron. So when we look at all of these markers together, we can more fully assess any iron handling imbalances. The sixth type of testing that I love to use with my clients are stool testing. Millions of people are struggling with digestive and gut health issues. This is a very common problem that I see in my practice. There are a lot of different kinds of stool tests on the market that will assess not only your gut microbes, but also your intestinal health. My favorite stool test is called the GI map, and this test is evaluating normal bacteria, opportunistic or overgrowth bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa, worms, and several intestinal health markers related to digestive and intestinal health. This is a simple at-home test where you just collect a small portion of your stool and then you ship it back to the lab. Very non-invasive again. The 7th test is another one that you can just add on to any blood test, and this is for vitamin D. This is a simple, cheap, and highly informative test that provides insights into your vitamin D status. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin that also acts as a hormone in the body. It has hundreds of roles related to bone health, calcium regulation, inflammation, immune system, mood, and even brain health. The 8th test that I recommend for a lot of my clients, again, is just additional markers on a blood test. Inflammation markers and cardiovascular risk, specifically C-reactive protein, or CRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, or HSCRP, and homocysteine are 3 of my favorites. These are just a few of the inflammation markers that can be looked at on a blood test, but these 3 provide great insight into the inflammatory processes in the body related to cardiovascular health, generalized inflammation, and oxidative damage. CRP, or C-reactive protein, is a marker of the acute phase inflammation, meaning it rises within the first couple of hours of the inflammatory process beginning. It's also a good marker for generalized inflammatory processes. High sensitivity CRP, or HSCRP, is a more sensitive test that evaluates cardiovascular risk. Homocysteine is an amino acid that is often looked at to assess vitamin deficiencies, B12, folate, and B6. Elevations in homocysteine have been linked to increased cardiovascular disease risk. The 9th type of testing that I love is adrenal testing specifically. This can be done via saliva or urine and looks at cortisol and cortisone rhythms throughout the day. The tests I use collect at least 4 samples at specific times throughout a day to establish what your levels are at different points throughout the day. We have a rhythm to these. There are high points throughout the day and low points throughout the day. So we need to look at multiple points. Some of these tests also will add additional markers such as metabolites of cortisol as it's broken down and eliminated from the body. These tests also often evaluate DHEA, which is a hormone, and additional markers that are related to assessing your overall health. If you happen to have high cortisol and low DHEA, your body is in a state of breakdown, which can lead to loss of muscle, bone, and healthy tissue. Your adrenal glands have many roles related to energy, stress handling, blood sugar handling, mineral balance, and every system in the body. And the final test that I like to use with a lot of my clients is comprehensive hormone testing. Again, this can be collected via saliva or urine and evaluates estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone specifically. Many tests also include the cortisol and DHEA testing discussed previously. And there are different recommended tests depending on if you're male or female, if you're cycling or non-cycling female, and the overall goals of the testing. Somebody who's looking for fertility-related testing would be very different than a male or a postmenopausal female. This information can be helpful for clients that are experiencing hormone imbalance issues like low libido, PMS, PMDD, infertility, amenorrhea or loss of menstrual cycle, short or long cycles, hot flashes, cramps, breast tenderness, and also bone health, muscle loss, weight gain around the middle, skin changes, and more. In addition to these panels that can be applicable to a wide range of clients, there are also additional functional tests that are specific to individual needs. Things like heavy metal toxicity, environmental toxicity, mold, Lyme disease, genetic testing, micronutrient testing, and many other types of tests that could be valuable if the basics haven't addressed your health concerns. So there you have my list of 10 tests that your doctor is unlikely to order or even know about, but I believe many people would benefit from. Now, to be clear, I don't run all of these tests on every single client. I start with the basics and add on if needed. If you are interested in learning more or want to have some of these tests run for yourself, I'm here to help. I'll leave the information in the show notes for how you can take action on your own health today. Thank you for tuning in. And if you found this information valuable, I would ask 2 things of you. Number 1, please leave a 5-star review in your podcast player so others can more easily find this information. And 2, share this episode with family and friends who need this information. Thanks again. Until the next, be well and vibrant. Thanks for being a faithful listener to the podcast. I'd love it if you left me a 5-star review on this podcast so that others can more easily find this valuable information. Did you know I also work one-on-one with clients? I approach solving health challenges like I approached solving crimes, by conducting a thorough investigation into your case. Whether you're looking to lose weight, boost your energy, fix your digestive system, or reduce inflammation, I can help. All you have to do to get started is book a free call. The link is in the show notes.